Hit the big record button now.
Talk show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 443. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my regular co-host, John White. Today's Wednesday, August 1st, 2018. John, how you doing?
Doing really well, Eric. I bring you the Color of the Bay report, backed by popular demand.
Popular demand. We've been making up colors of the Bay, so now that you're back, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I crossed the San Mateo Bridge this morning at about 8 o'clock. On my right-hand side, muddy brown. On my left-hand side, beautiful, beautiful blue. I don't know how that works, but that's what the colors were. The color is always interesting. So a little bit of sunny, but maybe shallow on the other side, some wind, get some mud color up there. Very possible.
That's good. On the show today, we have the topic is networking and security at VMworld with our guest, Patamon. Is that right? Patamon.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah, his title is VP and CTO of Network and Security BU, so it's a real pleasure to have somebody in charge of things, or at least marginally in charge of things, as much as we can be on the show today, so that should be fun. We're talking about VMworld through the month of August, and today is August 1st, so away we go. But before we get to Pata, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the news and what's happening with VMworld. So some big things happening. Of course, we're now in August, so we're running up to the days of VMworld. And I know Corey, you're on the call, so we'll just do a shout out to you. How's it going?
Feeling great, Eric.
That's good.
Things are going fantastic. We just wrapped up vExpert applications this morning.
Oh, nice. So you're wrapping up means the app's closed, or you did the voting?
The apps closed last night, and we're finished with voting as well, and we're going to announce this Friday. So this Friday morning, afternoonish, we will have a blog go out as well as all the emails and the announcement for vExpert.
Yeah, and so this is the back half of 2018. So if you're already a vExpert, you're already waiting for 2018. This is just giving everybody a second chance to get in the program leading into VMworld, where we're going to have some fun stuff going on, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we are kind of confirmed for the vExpert party. Going to be back at doing the V barbecue gig this time. So V barbecue at the pinball museum. So we are going to go back to the pinball museum, but it's really about the V barbecue, right?
Nice.
So,
and it's my understanding that the second half of vExperts are allowed to go to the second half of the party. Is that right?
they get one rib, not two.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. No, you did not hear that from us. We don't do that. A couple other things that are going to be exciting at VMworld. Obviously, the vExpert party is a big one. We invited Pat, I know that. So working on locking him down to get him there and be there this year. So and enjoy some barbecue. John Troyer, just talked to John Troyer earlier today. He's going to be doing a lot of stuff at VMworld this year. He's got opening acts on Sundays. So we have the opening act stuff that's Sunday for community members that want to participate in the opening acts, kind of like pre-community show that they do. So watch out for him there. He's going to be on the Cube again, doing live streaming with the Cube, and he says he's going to hang out as much as he can at the community booth and the blogger tables doing podcasts and recording podcasts. So talk to him about that. But also he told me he's doing a week before, he's going to be working with vExperts on a VMworld exclusive briefing where he's going to take you through what you should not and what you should miss at VMworld. So I told him I'd do a shout out and let people know and let the vExperts know they're listening that John Troyer is going to be doing some vExpert stuff, and we're happy to have him in the ecosystem.
That's
as
awesome.
Always.
That's awesome.
Right. And so you can watch him on Twitter. Go follow John. I think his wife, Kat, is also going to be doing some stuff there. And, he's all over the place. So it's really good to have him there. Give us that update and follow him as always. So shout out to Mr. Troyer for doing the good work that he does every year, and he will be there. So that's something you don't want to miss. We talked last podcast about some of the code stuff that you also don't want to miss. The hackathon went live. I think we have 125 people signed up for the hackathon already.
Oh, wow. That's
we have some other teams are going to spin up. We're going to be doing a kind of a blockchain team that me and some other guys are going to be on, so that'll open up. So we're going to be marketing what team do you want to get on. So thanks to, I think, 60 or 70 people that have already signed up to hackerearth.org, where we're going to be running the hackathon through August virtually. So I think that hackathon starts August 6th, where you can actually come in, share ideas, get with your team, and start hacking early. We're going to share some source code repositories for some interesting blockchain stuff. Yeah.
Eric, just as a heads up, there did not seem an easy way to actually join teams on Hacker Earth right now. There may be something that needs to be changed on the settings, but most everybody is signing up as a single individual and not as teams, and there's not an easy way to join that.
Yes, we have discovered that ourselves. It turns out there is a way, but when you first register, you can't. You don't get put on a team. You end up selecting a topic, which then makes your own team, and then you have to drop off your own team and go join a team of interest, which is kind of odd. So we are going to write up and send everybody that signed up on Schedule Builder to some instructions on how to do that. So because it is confusing, and we've got like 50 individual teams that showed up. So yeah, thanks. We've noticed that, and Kripa will be sending out mail to everybody explaining how to get on your right team. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of odd, right? So we're going to be giving hackerearth.org some feedback on their app for sure.
And Bill's sessions that he talked about last week are open, and they are there now.
Yes, that's right. So I don't know the session ID. I didn't write it down, but Bill's Raspberry Pi session with Wavefront with a great India engineer for the IoT stuff, Leota, is also going to be there, and those guys are now. And I think all the session number is the same number. Does anybody know the session number?
5546.
All right, there you go, 5546. And because you're listening to the podcast, I will say the first couple hundred that get in those sessions, which are basically all the slots, will walk away with like a $50 Raspberry Pi with a network interface and a sensor, from what I understand. So.
And you get to meet Ray Liotta. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. yeah, that too. Right, everything. So again, John Troyer's going to be there. We got the hackathon that's going to be there. We've got Raspberry Pis we're giving away, and then we have the VMware Code Coin that we're launching, right? And so Code Coin is just basically a cryptocurrency that's, we're not allowed to say currency. It's a rewards program with a rewards ID that behaves a lot like a currency, but is actually just a rewards program. But then we do have a store on site that you will be able to buy things, and I think we have a lot of prizes, just tons of stuff that you can get, right? And I can't talk about them yet. At least I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. Some of the funnest ones are nice. The bomber jackets with a nice little code logo on the front, not too big, not too small, black, really nice jackets. You have to get 500 coins throughout the event to do that. But we have things that you can go. You take labs, you can get 25 coins for labs. You can watch power sessions, you get another 25 coins. So we have lots of ways to get coinage, and then come into the store at the code booth and pick out stuff that you want to buy. We have a mobile app that we're going to be launching, so should be a lot of fun. So between code, Raspberry Pis, Internet of Things, code sessions, all the V Brown Bag stuff that's going to be there, the Blogger Tables podcast booth, a second podcast booth that's special that we'll talk about maybe closer to the event, going to be really good. I don't think people should miss this one.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Definitely not. And then, of course, Corey, the VExpert Party, and all the other sessions. I think between the code sessions and the V Brown Bag sessions, we're over 100 different sessions that you can sign up for, 120, 130, wow. Which if you look at the total number of sessions at VMworld, where there's like 350, 400, yeah. And the community ones now are up to 120. We're getting significant where you can come experience the whole community environments and have a lot of fun with John, the Cube, and all the stuff that's that's going to be in the village, you could just hang in the village the whole time, do all the sessions, and hang with us. It should be a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
So that's coming up. So pay attention and go get your tickets. If you haven't gotten tickets yet, go get tickets for VMworld. Register and sign up. And we'll be talking a little bit about some of the cooler sessions we're going to be doing for the community as we move forward. So that's what I've got. Anybody else got any news they want to share before we get to our guest?
Well, our CEO, Pat Gelsinger, was awarded the #1 CEO by Computer Reseller News. CRN, I think they're going by now. I don't know that impacts anything, but it is definitely out there. It is definitely news. It's really interesting to read their write-up, too.
Great. Yeah. He's been active, and it's kind of fun to watch some of the stuff he's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to our guest. So, Monclús, say your name again. Pata Monclús. Peta, thanks for joining the community podcast, as always. Peta, thanks for joining us. You're the VP and CTO of Network and Security BU. We always start out with, hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your career been look like in tech, and how'd you end up at VMware, and then what do you do at VMware?
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I started networking many years ago. And in a big networking company, specialized mainly in security, data center solutions, data center architectures, and deliver a few products on that space in there. From there, I started working on higher problems, like what would happen when the cloud transforms the way we think about connectivity, about security, about networking. And from there, I started a company, a startup, PlumGrid, that deliver SDN solutions for containers, OpenStack, and clouds. And this is what led to VMware. The company was acquired by VMware in end of 2017 in the network business unit, the network and security business unit, and I became the CTO of the group. Now, in here, I'm driving different things. One is continuing to look forward in terms of how the evolution of compute and cloud native affects the world of security, connectivity, and what products and technologies do we introduce in that area. And the other, of course, is as we evolve within the journey of networking in VMware with the recent launch that we did about the virtual cloud network on how do we essentially connect any workload across any cloud with a proper security model, operations, visibility, and so on. So we have to continue to watch in terms of what are the product roadmaps, how are the integrations, and how are our customers seeing and perceiving the type of capabilities and value that we are delivering to them.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, good little history. Nice we acquired your company. That's one way of getting in our ecosystem. So happy about that, and glad you're still here. And sounds like you have a good gig. Let's talk a little bit about VMworld. So I know you're going to be at VMworld. A couple of the community members that we were chatting before we started the podcast says that I think they're signed up for your sessions. Maybe you can give us a sense of how many sessions, what's going to be happening, what are you doing, and then what are we doing around this whole space?
Yes, I mean, as you know, NSX and the strategy around networking, it has become a fundamental part of VMware. I mean, in this SDDC journey, in terms of how do we automate the whole process about delivering applications faster to our customers and how to connect to multi-clouds and how to connect to containers. So NSX has progressively been growing within the importance within the VMware ecosystem, to the point that I don't even remember how many sessions do we have. Like, we have sessions starting by what Pat is going to mention about the new announcements that we are going to have in the networking and security space, to Ray O'Farrell, to Tom Gillis, the GM of the business unit, and then to the variety of sessions that I'll be presenting and the team will be presenting within the different products and solutions and capabilities. So it's been, I think, from a sessions point of view, probably after vSphere and ESX, most likely is the number 2 in terms of representation in VMworld. Now, without revealing too much about the things that we are going to launch and announce there, because there has to be a wow effect and a surprise factor,
of course.
I can tell you that we've grown a lot from a few months back that we launched the Virtual Cloud Network. And let me explain a little bit about the Virtual Cloud Network solution or vision that we delivered or we launched a few months back. So the idea was that we grew from a data center environment. Like if you think VMware traditionally started in the data center, delivering better consolidation in terms of servers, efficiency, operations, security, and we grew the networking layer out of that ecosystem. But a few years ago, we saw clearly that it was not just about connecting virtual machines or workloads, but rather how to expand towards containers, bare metal, cloud native, and how to create this fabric that would connect all the applications together. And that has been the success and growth of VMware within the networking space. What we've seen is that it's not anymore about networking for the sake of networking, but rather is a matter of how to deliver properties to the applications that deliver significant value to your business. And this is this notion of what do we say? We provide microsegmentation, essentially the ability to secure your workloads as they spawn up automatically, regardless where they are. The ability to do automated provision of networks, the ability to do disaster recovery and portability of your workloads across multiple environments as the network moves with your environments. And this has been the first iteration of what Network and Security Business Unit was doing. Based on what our customers were telling us, essentially this grew into what are the users of those applications. And that led to the expansion of getting into the branch and into the SD-WAN business. And we introduced NSX SD-WAN by the acquisition of Velo Cloud, and that's another pillar of the portfolio. And then going up the stack, we have App Defense that essentially comes top-down, trying to understand how applications are behaving, what's the baseline of the application, define a known good, and then monitor when something deviates from that behavior. So putting all these pieces together, putting the integration end-to-end in a way that when our enterprises, our customers, our partners, they need a solution that works from the cloud to the data center, to the containers, to the branches, to the users. They just have this virtual cloud network environment that delivers a unified set of operational procedures, security, troubleshooting, operation, and so on. And in VMworld, we will be very proud to announce some of the new product portfolio and the new integrations that we have within this vision of creating a simpler environment for enterprises to deliver applications across clouds in a secure manner.
Is the it's fascinating. I listened to that, and it really transitions from the application to the application user. One of the questions that I have is the data center operators, are they ready for this message? I know you came from a company that was, I think, working on container technology, right, and doing this from a container perspective. Is the audience ready to consume this? We had network administrators, we had storage administrators, we had compute administrators. Now we start talking about application. Now we climb up that step to the whole user and what the user is experiencing, and then IT architects and operators have to figure out then how to do that. How is that being accepted by the practitioners and customers in general?
What we see is definitely there's a cultural transformation, whereas you were saying we are going from a siloed IT environment where you are expert on compute, expert on networking, expert on storage, to something else. And the first question is, what is driving that transformation? If you think until now, the infrastructure was about how can I deliver a better infrastructure, a more efficient infrastructure. But the business dynamics with all the digital transformation that is going on in the industry is not about how do I build a more efficient infrastructure, but how do I become more agile from a business point of view. And that led to this kind of dual speeds in terms of how do I think in terms of my IT team, where we saw the creation and the emergence of cloud IT teams, like specialized teams that instead of being siloed in the three pillars of infrastructure, they would put a storage expert, a networking expert, a compute expert, make them work together and charter them into, you have to cloudify the enterprise. You have to operate your data centers as a cloud, and you have to be able to insert cloud into our portfolio of infrastructure environments. In here, what we've seen is that the SDDC approach of VMware, essentially delivering the vSAN, the combination of vSphere, vSAN, and NSX, delivers exactly that level of automation and sophistication that those teams need. Now, as you say, the industry is going in waves. The early adopters saw that around 2010, 2011, 2012, and driving that transformation. then the less that the rest of the industry started to lead, especially by the fact that they had a reference model in their minds, which was how do you operate public clouds. So what we see is that still there's some transformation going on, but we tend to see the desire of organizations to go towards this more unified, efficient model, because ultimately it's good for business. And yeah, sometimes there is a little bit of retraining, relearning, learning new tricks, new capabilities, and becoming more of a generalist than before. But with the improvement of our tools and automation, we allow essentially the people managing VMware infrastructure to become more knowledgeable and more generalist, while taking the mundane tasks of provisioning networks or provisioning compute or provisioning storage into our products, and we enable them by the products and solutions that we deliver them. So essentially, what we are trying to do is help them in the journey of aligning with the business needs that the industry demands right now.
Yeah, Petra, that's fascinating. What I think Eric was touching on is that we seem to be in the middle of a paradigm shift, right? If we go back to the compute virtualization paradigm shift, if you ask people in 2002, IT professionals, hey, how are you going to operate your data center? Can you imagine that you'd ever virtualize everything and have a bare metal hypervisor and that be the regular paradigm? They would say, oh, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. We're buying more and more metal. And I feel like we're kind of in the middle of that same type of transformation right now, where, network stretching across clouds, disaggregation from virtual machines and going more towards containers or going more towards edge computing, any of the different directions that we can be pulled, none of that is necessarily comfortable for people right now, right? So how do we make them more comfortable with this paradigm shift, this business transformation? Because just reassuring them and saying, hey, of course we'll be there to help retrain you, that seems to be falling on deaf ears right now. I feel like we need to make the people more comfortable.
Yeah, I think that the incremental part that they do when they experience vSphere, for example, you start understanding vCenter, managing virtual machines, and soon you encounter the notion of a virtual switch, and then a virtual distributed switch. And you start getting used to the fact that when you're in charge of delivering an application into production, there is many components beyond the compute aspect of the application, right? And through the early experiences that vCenter and vSphere gives you, you start realizing about how to manage the multiple ports that the server may have. How do you manage the IP addresses, the logical switch or the distributed switch? And immediately you realize that there is much more. And so I think the transformation, as you say, it may be seen as a good for the enterprise top-down, but in reality, the transformations have to be carried by the cultural shift and by the understanding of the new technology. Those things always takes time. I mean, people that are really good at something, and now you ask them to take more responsibility or more understanding of the overall problem, even if you give better tools, there has to be a growing into that space. So what we've seen is that those transformations traditionally tend to be 7-8 year cycles as you introduce new technologies. But what happens is, if you don't understand the end goal, like for example, what you were saying is on the transformation from metal to virtualization, when you had never ever seen a VM, it was difficult to even visualize what would be the end goal. And that would lead to a slow transformation and a low progress in terms of how to adopt that technology. But now here we have a different thing. It's like everybody sees the end goal. I just put a credit card in public clouds, and I ask for what I want, and magic happens, and I get it. So the end goal in terms of what does it mean to be automated? What does it mean to have networking provision on demand in a secure manner? What does it mean in terms of having a set of operations and policies? So the thing that is accelerating at least the understanding of what's the end goal is that right now you have a clear reference saying, give it a try. You just need a credit card. And now you say, that's it. That's what the end goal is. So what happens is that the people in the enterprise are specialized in specific segments. They say, okay, I may be expert on an element, but I can clearly see what the end goal is. So in this sense, I think we have an advantage compared to previous transformations that you can experience what should be fully automated data center, a full converged cloud, even on-prem. And then it's like, okay, Mr. VMware, help me out. I understand what I want. Now I need a set of tools and technologies and support and training and so on to accomplish this level of efficiency on-prem or this level of efficiency across clouds. So I think it's helping in the sense that, yeah, transformations still take time, but people seeing what the end goal is helps in terms of their career path and their desires to learn more because they see the fundamental value of this transformation. They don't have to imagine it.
Right. So that's kind of an upward, a downward up, right, from the data center up. Mm-hmm. We're also seeing this idea of microservices and building the apps, and the apps people kind of coming from the developer side and then coming down saying, hey, we need these services as well. So how much does the app people understand this paradigm, and are they helping drive it from the top down? I'm just curious on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. We have right now multiple dynamics. The first one is this notion of from infrastructure to multi-cloud. That's one dynamic. And this is still kind of an infrastructure as a service, bottoms-up transformation, as you were mentioning. The other is a completely rethinking of how do I develop an application. I mean, traditionally, I may use WebSphere, WebLogic, JBoss, have a monolith, have an APM solution on the monolith to understand what's going on. And suddenly I say, well, I have this new abstraction called whatever, Kubernetes, Cloud Foundry. I mean, there's many ways of doing it that with the microservices allows me to kind of break it into small components that they connect between themselves with an automated environment when they get provision. And I get a lot of cool new things like automatic scale up and down, monitoring of and tracing of latency, end-to-end tracing, security at the API level, at the microservice level. And that is being driven by this cloud-native application transformation, the microservice transformation. Now, what we see is that within an enterprise, traditionally the people that understand the application or the platform that hosts the application and the people that understand infrastructure, they are still separated in the sense that the concerns about an infrastructure guy about keeping an uptime or a security environment and understanding connectivity at the IP level or VMs at the orchestration level compared to the application guy or the cloud native container microservices guy that is going to say, I have a 3-tier app with these APIs and by the way, I need to scale it up and down dynamically. Sometimes they use different interfaces. And if you think this is all the Kubernetes-related products that we are going to announce at VMworld, but fundamentally, as we say, the network and the security part, they have to connect the existing environments with the future environments because applications is about continuity. It's like as I develop new applications in this container cloud-native world, I still need to talk to my existing workloads. I still need to talk to my Oracle database. I still need to talk to my VMs. So the offering that we do as we enable our customers towards this transformation is essentially to bridge them through this gap. Now, from an understanding point of view, you're still correct that the understanding of technologies like networking and security by the application development teams is not about the components and the management of those components, but about what do I expect from the network. I expect to be elastic. I expect to be secure. I expect to have strong identities into my microservices and so on.
Right.
Now, this, we have to translate that intent into how do we program our network virtualization layer, our microsegmentation policies, our service mesh, and so on. And our job as a technology company that helps our customers with this transition is to bridge the needs and understandings of those two teams towards achieving the common goal, which is become more agile from a business point of view.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, that makes
is
sense.
it an easy bridge? No, not always, but that's our job.
Yeah, right. So in a real sense, I don't think that the app developers really understand the complexities, right? They just expect that service to be there, as you call out, right? And they just expect policies to be there. And when I'm building app, I just expect IT to deliver something for me that handles that, so that I don't have to spend my time worrying about that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that makes sense. All right, so so we've talked about the transition that's happening, and certainly with network and security, you're leading our thought process around that. Let's flip back to VMworld for a little bit. Do you personally have sessions, and what are you going to be covering in your sessions, if you have them?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I'll be covering some of the forward-looking trends, especially in going back to the last question that you asked about what's going on with application development and application transformation and the evolution towards what now is coming with Kubernetes and service meshes. I mean, if you followed lately, there is these projects around Istio, Envoy, and service mesh concepts that leave you depending on what the application is doing. I'm going to be covering some of those, and then presenting how our portfolio of the virtual cloud network extending from multi-cloud to on-prem to branches delivers you an end-to-end experience in terms of operations and security.
Nice.
I have a question, John. I don't know. Do you have one first?
Yeah, well, I think I have an observation. And what's really interesting to hear when you're saying that is it's not just this linear journey of virtualization, virtualized network, and then a hybrid cloud. Because I keep on hearing that as the be-all, end-all of the vision, on private cloud to public cloud bridging and then multi-public cloud. But that isn't it at all, is it? That's just a very, very small part of this vision that you've articulated. There's application security, there's containerization. It seems like this multi-cloud kind of being this people have blinders about multi-cloud, I guess, is my observation.
I feel like STDC and this whole multi-cloud is kind of like defining the alphabet or defining reading at a first grade level, cat, dog, this, that.
Right.
But when you really get into the complexity of building now a next generation application, it's like reading a novel. It's Shakespeare, where you're building at a much higher level now and a much more sophisticated level than just a hybrid cloud. Yep. Here's infrastructure. And just manage it that way.
Nobody says I want a multi-cloud just because that's cool. There's got to be a reason behind it, and the reason generally is you have applications that live in different clouds for very specific reasons and very specific constraints, right? So now you need to glue all that together, and just to hear that articulated a little bit better. Gives me great hope.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question on you. You mentioned mesh networks, right? And I went to a session, I think a code session, where they briefly talked about mesh networks, and I've done some reading on it, and I'm still confused. Can you break apart what we're talking about? Can anybody do that? Maybe Pettit can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you think there's exactly as you were mentioning, there's two transformations going on, right? One is how do I have my on-prem environments as agile and dynamic as cloud, and how do I use multiple clouds without dying of becoming experts of 2 or 3 public clouds and an on-prem cloud and so on. So there is an aspect that we tend to simplify in this notion of, you need a multi-cloud strategy. But as you said, it's not that you need to have multiple clouds just because it's cool. It's like your applications, for whatever reason, are demanding multiple clouds, and now your IT team cannot be expert in terms of operating 3 types of clouds or 4 types of clouds and managing security in different ways and visibility in different ways. So when at VMware we say kind of like the virtual cloud network gives you a multi-cloud network solution, is this notion of how do we help the operations team and the networking team and the security teams that they have been mandated that they are going to have multiple clouds because the applications demand it, to have a consistent pane of glass that they can feel comfortable managing and securing the multiple clouds. That's one transformation. Now the question, as you say, is like why should I care? Why should I even think about multiple clouds? And it's like, well, because your application developers are going to be deploying the apps across multiple geographies because they are going to be consuming services from multiple cloud providers, maybe some machine learning from Google, maybe some storage from Amazon or some other NLP API and so on. So now what happens is that I need to create those applications that they may be native applications or Kubernetes-based applications, so on, that they are going to exist in multiple clouds. Now the question is, okay, do I have to, every time I deploy an application, like think how I'm going to put a microsegmentation policy between a VM running in Amazon and a container running in Google and a serverless function running in Azure? And that's very cumbersome. So the new wall of service meshes is like saying, look, we are going to break the understanding of networking in multiple layers. And one layer is this network infrastructure as a service that a network virtualization layer or an SDN layer gives you. Check. Now go one level up and you say, I'm deploying a microservice that has these specific APIs that now needs to connect to another microservice that may or may not be in the same cloud, and a production microservice from this group needs to talk to another production microservice from that group, and I don't care where they are. They may be in the same Kubernetes environment, they may be in different Kubernetes environments, they may be in different clouds. So now the movement that is emerging right now about service mesh is, what if instead of thinking just networking, which has to be there, which is a fundamental component of my infrastructure, what if I could say this service needs to talk to that service? Now that's it. I don't need to say anything else. Now the service may contain multiple instances because it may be a dynamic service that scales up and down. It may be expanding across clouds. But that's it. I don't need to specify anymore. I need a mesh of connectivity at the service level that allows me this fully qualified domain name and this API path to talk to that one, make it happen. And in a secure way, collecting telemetry, understanding if the application is meeting the SLA and SLO, with properly mutually authenticated between the service, maybe with encryption. So this is what's emerging with these new service mesh technologies.
Okay. Are there service mesh technology offerings? Like, could you name a couple of what is the way to build that? And are we in that space as well? Or I know you use the term, but I'm just curious, where do people start building that out?
Yes. So the way to start is within the Kubernetes community. There is an effort called Istio and Envoy. Istio, that is the kind of service mesh technology default into Kubernetes. The best way to start is to download a Kubernetes cluster, install Istio, and to start playing with it. And from there, there's multiple participants in the community. We are one of them. We are contributing. Open source, and we are part of that environment. And yes, we are working with a set of new products and technologies that I cannot disclose yet. But yeah, we are going to be part of the community, and we are going to be a player in that space. Very nice,
very nice. I'm putting all the pieces together now. That makes sense, right? And it's nice that VMware acquired you and brought you in and are starting to build this out, because as you know, if you have a virtual cloud network, you're going to have to deal with all this, and everybody in our ecosystem is starting to have to figure out how to climb into this space and learn enough to be articulate, especially when we start offering products. You got the Cisco network admins, right? That are part of, out there, right? Are they climbing into this space as well as everybody in the industry, or is Cisco staying in a different paradigm?
Cisco, definitely there's many people that, and I was in Cisco for 12 years, so it's a great company and delivering great products.
Sure, but they're a partner. Yeah.
The thing I was mentioning at the beginning, and that one of your questions you were emphasizing it too, is like, why would I deploy across multiple clouds, or why would I deploy across multiple networking vendors, or why would I? And the answer is that it's not the right question. The right question is, how do I make sure that my applications get provisioned fast and securely? So if you think that the philosophical difference from what VMware is doing is this notion of saying, let's put the application as the first-class citizen.
Got it.
I'm not building networks for the sake of networking. I'm building networks to connect applications in a secure manner and to let application developers deliver faster their innovation or their value by self-provisioning, by portability, and so on. So that's why the commitment that VMware has to our customers and partners is that wherever the applications go, we will go there, because our mission statement is that we will deliver value across any application, across any cloud, right? And that's this software value proposition. So what we see is that other networking vendors, of course, they are seeing the value aspect of getting closer to the application, and definitely there's going to be multiple players in the industry. But we tend to have like a lot of customers that they see the value of us integrating properly with technologies, physical networks, and we try to have the best partnerships possible between what big networking vendors and Cisco is doing with what we are doing, because we believe that there's a lot of complementarity, and our customers definitely want to see how VMware's network technologies and Cisco physical infrastructure, they work together to deliver a better value to our customers.
Right, that makes sense. I'm always challenged by my marketing management. I'll say that. I'll state that out front to figure out, like, so how do we appeal to a Cisco network admin and bring them into the cloud journey, right? And they're the virtual cloud network story, right? And sometimes I think that we can definitely do that and appeal to them in some way. Other times I think we might just be putting them out of business, and that there is no natural appeal to a network admin because his job role is going to change. But maybe there's something in that, as his job role changes and they look at the perspective of the whole application, maybe we can attract them to that vision and then get them engaged in our own technology. Because there is always this struggle with, how do you target, some Cisco admins and start giving them a journey through the VMware ecosystem. And on one hand, I think now we're just going to put them out of business. It's like saying, you've got buggy whip administrators, like sooner or later, we're not renting videos at Blockbuster anymore either. So you're not going to convince them to come. The job role is going to completely change. They're going to go out of business. Sorry. But at the same time, I want to give them a place, a journey, and a way to talk to them, to encourage them to come over and participate in the way we're looking at the world. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe I try to speak in a more evolution or optimistic way, but let me show a different analogy. Imagine that you were managing vCenter VM by VM. Every time you want to deploy an application, and maybe an application that has 120 VMs, now you would have to provision 120 VMs independently. Versus you go to tools like VRA and VRO, and you create a blueprint and you deploy the application in one shot. So it's not that our goal is that we are trying to take anybody out of business. Our goal is we want to give you better tools to the point that you can be way more effective in your job. So the hope that I have on this evolution of networking is we are not trying to take any networking guy out of business. We are trying to give them tools that when their management chain is going to ask them, how do you connect your data center to a public cloud, to an application running in containers, they'll see the value of the tools that we provide, and they'll say, oh my gosh, with these tools, I can do the same job that I was doing before and much more that before I didn't even understand. And I don't have to get into the managing box by box, port by port, IP by IP, because these tools automated my job. And hopefully they'll grow into that. If you define a network admin as a person that 10 years from now is going to manage a data center with 200 switches, and every time that he has to do a config change, is going to log in SSH into 200 switches, do a change, and do a mistake in between, and the network will go down, that person is going to be out of business. But it's not that we are going after those people. What we are trying to do is give them tools in a way that they become way more effective at their job.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to come find you after this podcast, and I'm going to write some of this down so that I have a narrative. Every time somebody asks me, how to go after network admins, I'm going to be able to articulate that story, right? Like, let's take them on an application journey, and let's expand their role and give them things that they can do more of with, and make their job more exciting. So then we're not, and then maybe there's Cisco switches in the back end, but then we're expanding your role, and this is how you can use our software to expand that role and do more with what you've got. So.
It sounds very much to me like
what happened to what happened to the sysadmins, right? You were like from managing individual servers to now they were the ones that evolved into vSphere and VMware technologies, and they became huge in terms of effectiveness into their business and value that they brought to the organization. So ideally, what we want to do is to give the same type of tools and power to the networking people in a way that now they can be way more effective within accomplishing the business values of the organization. If they see this transition, they'll take that role and they'll continue the journey and their careers with technologies like the ones we are delivering. If not, definitely managing ports and managing switches one at a time is not going to be the work of the future.
Yeah, that I think synchronizes almost exactly with what I was going to say. It really feels like the value to the business is, aligning with the applications and aligning with the business value that's actually being created by the business. And the people that are getting disrupted are not just people who are running switches and routers or plugging in network cables. It's anybody who's standing still. Right. So even the virtual machine administrator or the VMware administrator, if their core value to the business is being able to install ESXi on 4 machines and provision a virtual machine and attach storage to it, like maybe that job is going to get disrupted, right? We have Cloud Foundation, like all of those things can be automated. We have VRA and VRO, like you said, all those things can be automated and made redundant. It's really incumbent on everybody in the business to go up the value chain, or else their job's going to be disrupted, and that's not unique to a switch and route vendor. That's absolutely everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, we're coming up to the top of the hour. We have a few more minutes left, so Pare, say your first name and last name again, and then the question is, do you have a Twitter handle?
I'm a little bit of a weird guy, so no, I don't have a Twitter handle.
Okay, so how do people find out what you're saying? Do you publish anywhere? What's the way that people can figure out what you want to talk about?
Do you even exist without a Twitter handle?
I know. I don't know. I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm this kind of like shadow that moves around, like talking in small
The next thing you're going to tell me you don't have a TV either.
Well, that's a conversation we can have over the
Oh my God! And if you tell me you don't eat barbecue, I'm just going to hang up.
No, I'm not vegan. No. But if you want to reach me, an email or a call,
Google,
anytime, and I'm very available.
That's great. Google. Well, I know you're in Schedule Builder, so people can go register for your sessions and get to meet you in person and come up afterwards and ask you a question. Tell them you heard it on the podcast. That'd be great. I know you're a VP. You're a busy guy, and we're leading up to VMworld, so I really appreciate you taking your lunch. I know I'm stealing your lunch, but or me and John stole your lunch, so I appreciate you giving your lunch to us and coming on the podcast and telling us all about this. This has been educational. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. So John, we got 2 minutes left. I guess we were going to get a barbecue report from Tony. I think he's on the line, and
Tony.
I hear he's got something to tell us about barbecue.
Bring it, Tony. What do
you got?
So last night I was experimenting with the barbecue. I put on some stuffed raviolis, some frozen meatballs, and yes, fries.
What?
Threw all those on the grill. The ravioli was absolutely awesome barbecued.
Barbecue ravioli. Nice.
Barbecued ravioli.
Barbecued ravioli.
Yeah.
That's a new one. I'm going to try that. Now, was this ravioli that you got frozen out of a packet, or how did you get ravioli?
It was.
Okay.
I didn't make handmade ravioli to throw on the grill. I'm just like, I'm going to grill some ribs. There's some ravioli right there next to the ribs in the freezer. Let's throw that on and see what happens.
There you go. All right. So if you're listening to that, that's a win. Barbecued ravioli. We're throwing down the challenge now. You're going to have to. The audience is going to have to come up with something better. Dial in and tell us what the better is. Because barbecue ravioli has got to be one of the better, unique ones. Before I think you've dethroned the barbecued salmon that somebody brought to us a couple weeks ago. So.
Wow, you're a crazy man, Tony.
Yeah. There you go.
I try.
There you go. All right. Well, with that, we're at the top of the hour, and we are bringing some more vSphere guests in throughout the rest of August as we ramp up to VMworld. We're going to talk about some more sessions that are happening. Going to start doing some session showcases. So should be a fun August, and happy that everybody's listening. And we will see you again next week. And because TalkShoe changed, I don't know if we can hit the big red stop button now, but we can say goodbye to people on Facebook. So thanks, Facebook. Good to see you guys, and come back again next week. I'll come check out your comments and reply if you got anything interesting to say. Tony, you get to hit the somehow end, but I don't think there is an end button in the new TalkShoe, or I haven't figured out what it is.
There is not an end.
Yeah, there is just a hang up, right? There is a end the call, right? Somewhere I think there was a end, like hang up button, maybe.
I got an exit conference, raise hand, share
That's it.
screen, start video.
There is only an exit
Conference.
Exit the conference, and I think when you do that, we all hang up. So I don't think there is a end the call and then chat on, or stop recording. There is no stop recording on this any longer. There is just a end the call and it hangs up. So for everybody out there, if you want to chitty chat, you're going to be recorded. So don't say anything too crazy.
I'm thinking about hanging around at VMworld, the podcast booths, with just a sign like on a board, and it says a designated podcast guest, and just stand around and see how many podcasts I can get on.
Yeah. A podcast surfer, right?
Yeah.
If you can couch surfing.
There you go.
Podcast surfing. That's one way to do it. We get so wrapped up in all the things that we're doing at the show that I forget to do the community roundtable podcast. Right, like we're so busy. Plus, everybody's at the show. So if you aren't coming to the show, you should, because I'm guaranteeing the community experience will be the best ever and worth the show price just on its own. And you should be able to at least collect, $200 worth of stuff, right?
Bomber jacket.
I look at the dollar. Sometimes I think that I could just take the total budget of stuff I'm buying, like shirts, T-shirts, you name it. We got Nintendo stuff. We got all kinds of stuff this year because we have a code currency that you can spend on. And I look at that and I go, I probably could buy everybody that's in the community a MacBook Pro.
Oh, wow.
Right? For the dollar amount I'm spending on everything, right? I could just say, we're not going to do any community, but sign up here. We'll mail you your MacBook Pro. Because like $150,000 later, right? Like then how many community members come through? We actually get a lot of community members come through. So if you talk, the number of people that are going to come through the sessions is pretty big. So I digress. It won't really work that way. Yeah. All right, Tony, you can hang us up now, and we're going to go get some.